Monday, still fun day. We are here. This is Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. Jared, how are you? We're wrapping up week 7 today. We have a Monday Night Football game that everyone's had circled on their calendars. Not, but really excited to finally finish up week 7. Some of these teams in the NFL, I still don't know how to read them. I don't know what's going on. Everything that happened yesterday was just weird, in my opinion.
I mean, you're doing a hell of a job reading the teams. Nails the Giants outright. Didn't even need the points. Pretty crazy day yesterday in the NFL.
It really was. Let's get into some winners and losers. And then we have our Monday Night Football preview. Howard Bender's going to come on. We have college football early birds talking about some of the week 8 surprises. And then there were only 2/3 of the undefeated teams left. And we'll get into that in a second. And then we have MLB postseason. The World Series, 2 teams are locked and loaded. That starts on Friday. Maybe some unexpected turns that we've seen from the Phillies this season. They still haven't lost a game at home all postseason, which is wild. So let's get into it. Let's bet it. Talking about some winners and losers and surprises that we've seen or overreactions from week 7. For me, one of the winners being the Seahawks, Jared. Kenneth Walker III for Heisman. I'm all about it. They're leading the division after 7 weeks at this point, and Kenneth Walker rushed for 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. The 49ers lost. The Rams had a bye. Pete Carroll didn't know that they were leading the division until his post-game press conference. And after someone told him, he goes, wow, 7 weeks into the season, and look where we are. Who would have thunk it? At this point, the Seahawks are serious playoff contenders. Geno Smith still completing a little bit under 75% of his passes. And what is going on with their defense the last 2 weeks, kind of stepping up and shutting down other teams?
Yeah, Geno did it again. You know, eventually people maybe will stop hating on Geno. He is having a Pro Bowl kind of year. And we're starting to see the Seahawks defense play a lot better. You're starting to see the running game play a little bit better. So all things positive for Geno Smith. I mean, the nerd numbers I look at, granted, they're not really worth much based off of the records of how I'm doing reading them. But the nerd numbers that I look at right now, the Seahawks are second in the NFL yesterday in EPA per play on defense. Pretty solid against the Chargers offense.
Yeah, it's insane. And then last week they held the Cardinals to 3 field goals. I mean, it's just what they're doing over the last couple of weeks. It's like everyone was saying, wow, Geno Smith is doing amazing. He needs his defense to step up. Is his defense going to be a playoff caliber defense? And over the last couple of weeks, they've shown, hey, they knew they needed to step up, and they have been. Another team that no one expected, except for maybe me, to win, is the Giants. But I was just kind of taking it because I love a good underdog money line. They're 6-1 because of 3 reasons. Brian Daboll, Saquon Barkley, and their defense. That's it. Daniel Jones has absolutely no one that can catch a football. None of his receivers can catch a football to save their life. But a win is a win, and they keep doing it. Even though their numbers aren't necessarily as good as the teams that they're playing, they find a way to win. And I think a lot of that has to do with Brian Daboll and the way he's coaching.
Yeah, got outgained yesterday. Jaguars had more yards per play, 7 to 6.2. All the numbers I look at say the Jaguars should have won that game, but they didn't. Not really much else to add other than tip of the cap to you again. Continue to destroy me and make me look foolish anytime I dare go against any of your bets. I have nothing more smart or savvy to add to this game. Giants, they won it. Jaguars lost it. 2 turnovers in the red zone, 4th and 1. Can't get the QB sneak executed. Travis Etienne's running wide open into the end zone, fumbles it into the end zone, touchback. I mean, I honestly, at this point, you guys are in great shape. Anytime I make a wager and Lauren disagrees with it, fade me. It's embarrassing right now. I have nothing else to say other than every number I'm looking at here says the Jaguars should have won this game, but they didn't. And there you go. Giants are 6-1.
Now we move on to week 8, and there's better swag bets that we can make. One of these days, Jared, I will be wearing that
more swag
hat, I promise you.
I'm done. I am waving the white flag. It is over. I will never make another swag bet against Lauren Jabara for the rest of my life. I have learned my lesson. The definition of insanity is to continue to do the exact same thing and expect a different result. And I am officially done with making swag bets against you. You are the champion. Tip of the cap to you, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Jared. Okay, let's get into some losers from this week. How the great have fallen in both Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. The Packers fell to the Commanders, and they're back up in Taylor Heineke. It's the Packers' third straight loss this season. Alan Lazard only had 55 yards. Everyone's saying, oh, they're just a receiver away. They're just a receiver away. Guys, this team, they are not good. Their identity is supposed to be their O-line. How can that be your identity when you're in shambles? You can't open a rushing lane to save your life. And then the secondary is giving up so many big plays, even with good talent back there. Their pass rush hasn't generated any pressure whatsoever. And they're a team that's making dumb mistakes, mental errors. They're getting called for penalties that are just mental lapses. They have to clean all of that up. They're not just one receiver away at this point, but Packers have lost 3 straight at this point, and that team is in shambles up there in Green Bay right now.
Yeah, the offensive line was very unhealthy yesterday. I'm trying to find the starters that they tweeted out during the game, but Bakhtiari, and here you go. So they moved Jenkins from right tackle to left guard. And the 2 tackles that they started yesterday, Nijman and Zach Tom, just didn't play well. And Bakhtiari was out at left tackle. John Runyon didn't play at left guard. So, Josh Myers was the only starter from last week at center that started again this week in the same spot for the Packers offensive line. But listen, they also gave up a ton of big plays on defense. They had a pick 6 in that game. I mean, again, you want to talk about just the way my luck is going right now. I had the under in that game, 41.5, and I don't know how it didn't hit. Again, every number I look at said there was not a lot of offense in that game. Packers struggled to move the ball, but a pick 6, a muffed punt, and then Aaron Rodgers getting a touchdown on the final drive of the game in the last minute screwed my under. And didn't matter. Green Bay still couldn't win, so that was a meaningless touchdown that just cost me money. But, I mean, I'm looking at the total yards right now. The entire game, both teams combined only gained less than 600 yards. Both teams combined gained less than 600 yards in a National Football League game, and somehow it still went over. So I'm just so over this league.
This is why Vegas is good.
I can't explain it. I can't logically give you any numbers to tell you why that game went over, but it did. Despite less than 600 yards of combined offense by both teams.
Yeah, this is why Vegas is good. It's crazy. They know the numbers. They set them for a reason, and they trick us all. I bet they lost a lot of money, though, on that Giants game, because I feel like a lot of people bet the whole public
books
was
got
on the Giants
hammered
money
yesterday.
line. Yeah.
The books got absolutely all you had. Guys, listen, you don't need me. Just go and look at who are the most bet on teams every week. Yesterday, it was the Chiefs, the Jets, and the Giants. Everyone just kept betting those 3 teams all week. Easy wins.
And all 3 won. Yeah. All 3
You
won.
don't need me.
Big Apple.
You just bet the most bet on teams every week. Follow the herd.
Jared. No, stop that. Stop.
Honestly, Lauren, I've been doing this a long time. I've never felt more lost in terms of my handicapping. I do the same thing every week. I bet the sharp contrarian plays, and every week they lose. I can't explain it. I can't logically explain it anymore. There's no logic behind it. It's just random.
This NFL season is one unlike any other. Some of the teams that we thought would be at the top of the divisions are at the bottom. And some of the teams that we thought would be at the bottom are at the top, like the Jets, who suffered a huge injury to Breece Hall. Obviously, we're going to get more reports today when he goes through his exam. Probably
we're hearing ACL,
which is a huge knock for their team.
Yeah,
which is a huge knock for their team. But teams that we thought would be good at the beginning of the season, including the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, have now lost 4 of their last 5 games. And this week to the Panthers, who are in absolute shambles. No coach at this point. They just lose Christian McCaffrey. And now the Bucs have lost 2 in a row where they're favored in both by at least a touchdown. They haven't scored a touchdown in the first quarter in each of his last 8 games. They've only scored 1 touchdown in their last 26 drives, which goes back to week 5. They've punted 14 times since then and have had 8 3-and-outs. This is unfamiliar territory for Tom Brady. He hasn't been 3-4 this late in a season since 2002, which was his 2nd season as a starter. Are the Bucs going to make the playoffs, Jared, at this point?
Hard to say yes.
Who
I
knows?
mean, the only real explanation is witchcraft and sorcery. Giselle rumored to be a witch. I mean, even Tom came out and said it during that. I remember, I think I sent it to you when he was doing like some promotional thing, and he was talking about his relationship like a couple years ago, and he was saying, yeah, like Giselle's a witch. Like she casts spells and she told me predicts the future and all this stuff. The only explanation is the witchcraft and sorcery has finally worn off, and Tom is now the average 44-year-old man with, low testosterone and, all these things that we all deal with in our high 30s and low 40s, and it's finally catching up to Tom. Father Time is undefeated, but also just the play around him has been bad. Mike Evans drops that touchdown on the opening drive of the game, and who knows, maybe that was witchcraft too. Maybe Giselle is just like casting spells sitting there in her house that Tom used to live in, and now casting spells all over him. I hope the wedding was worth it though, Tom. The wedding last Friday,
It's
Robert Kraft's wedding. Hope you had a good time there, because that might be the only positive celebration you had for a long time.
it
But
really
I
is
feel bad
crazy.
shitting on the guy's
Everything.
personal life. But I mean, he did make some pretty interesting personal decisions this year that have now come up snake eyes.
Yeah, it is really crazy to see how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have now fallen and how other teams have risen in the Big Apple. Two different directions, and we're going to get into MLB in a little bit with the Yankees. They have fallen, and the Jets and the Giants have risen. It's like no one expected that at the beginning of the football season at all. We have one more game tonight to talk about. It's the Bears taking on the Patriots, the game that everyone is extremely excited about. Monday Night Football. Let's bring in Howard Bender to break down some props for this Monday Night Football game. We're putting a bow on Week 7. The Bears hit a new low last weekend, Howard, with losing to the Commanders, which now I guess it's not a new low because the Commanders have now won 2 straight, and the Bears have lost 3 straight. But the Pats, they celebrated their way from Cleveland back to New England after Bailey Zappi probably had the best game of his career. How are you doing today? This is the game that everyone is so excited about. Not, but there are really good ways to bet it. So let's start walking through. Just first of all, your overall take of the Bears taking on the Patriots tonight for Monday Night Football.
Well, I was going to say, until you went not, I was going to say, what a great way to dress up tonight's ugliness. I mean, as if you didn't think that like Broncos games could get uglier, or last night's Miami Pittsburgh game couldn't lull you to sleep. Welcome to New England against the Bears in the rain.
Prime
In the
time.
rain. Let's talk about the fact that there are showers expected throughout the afternoon, into the game, possibly throughout the entire first half. This one's going to be, I mean, listen, the over-under is 40 and a half in some places. That pretty much tells you everything you need to know. Neither team stops the run very well. So, I don't see this being a big, high-flying, exciting game in any way, shape, or form. Not to mention, let's all remember the fact that Bill Belichick lives rent-free in young quarterbacks' heads. So, as much growth as we've seen out of Justin Fields over the last 2 weeks, this is a whole different animal for him, and it's going to be a very, very tall order for the Bears indeed.
Howard, how does the quarterback situation for New England change your perception here? Looks like it could be Mac Jones, could be Bailey Zappi. What do you think?
I think they're going to try and give Mac Jones a go. We're going to look at the condition of the field, and Bill Belichick will probably make that determination. He's a couple of weeks removed from the high ankle sprain, which traditionally takes 3 to 4 weeks for that to heal. So I think he wants Mac Jones under center. I think he'll tolerate Bailey Zappi. I don't think the quarterback actually changes anything about this game whatsoever.
I
I
agree.
think we're going to see a heavy dose of Ramondre Stevenson. I think we're going to see a strong amount of Damian Harris. And if the Patriots do get the opportunity to take a couple of shots downfield, I mean, do you really care if it's Mac Jones throwing it or Bailey Zappi throwing it? Both of them probably about the same as far as an effective passer goes.
I said Bailey Zappi looking like the Tom Brady of old out there the last couple of weeks. They scored 67 points over the last 2 games. I know the Bears' road defense is 7th worst in the league. How do you see, in terms of your prop bets, the Patriots offense taking advantage? Run us through your Patriots slate.
I'm looking at Ramondre Stevenson's rushing yards. I don't really know how much work Damian Harris is going to get. Obviously, he's coming off of that big hamstring injury, so I'm not entirely sure. So I think the what was the prop? I think it was 63 and a half yards for Ramondre
Yeah, 63
Stevenson.
and a half.
And I'll take the over on that. I really will. I think I got it at minus 115 because I look at the situation and I say Ramondre Stevenson, he was seeing more snaps than Damian Harris anyway. Damian Harris was featured a lot more between the tackles. He was featured at the goal line. Ramondre Stevenson was that guy getting the work done between the 20s, also handles some of the pass catching work. So he is on the field a little bit more. For 63 and a half yards against a team that's giving up, almost 170 rushing yards per game in the Bears, I look to that. I think that's going to be the one. I think whether it's Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi, with Mac Jones, the over-under for his touchdown passes was 1.5. I'll take the under on that because, again, I don't see this being a big aerial assault. And even if they get inside the 10, I still think that they want to run the ball the most. So for the Patriots, those are probably the two props that I'm looking at the most.
Couple Bears on your card tonight, an over and an under. So you're actually you're capping Mooney under and St. Brown over. That's a really low number for St. Brown. That's basically one catch. What's your vibe on the Chicago offense tonight?
Yeah, so I think we'll see a lot of David Montgomery. We'll see a fair amount of Khalil Herbert as well. But if you do look at that Patriots secondary, Jalen Mills definitely banged up. He has not been good in coverage at all. Equanimeous St. Brown actually holds a nice physical advantage over him. He's got good size. He's got the reach. He's got a little bit of speed in him. That I think that if Jalen Mills is a little banged up and is a little sluggish in this one, like you said, it's a really low number at 13 and a half. And when you look at 2022 DVOA numbers, where are the Patriots most vulnerable? And that is from Jalen Mills on his side of the field. Equanimeous St. Brown, who serves as the Z receiver for the Bears, probably going to hit the over on that. Darnell Mooney, I'll take the under on the 45 and a half yards. I like the growth that we saw from him last week. We finally saw that number one wide receiver opportunity for him getting the targets. Obviously, what does Bill Belichick do? He turns around and he takes away the top two weapons. So he's going to feature the run stuffing. He's going to look to put the kibosh on Darnell Mooney, and that kind of leaves things open for St. Brown. But I think where we're really looking at props wise for the Bears, Justin Fields. I like the under on his passing yards, which is 159 and a half. I got that at minus 115 as well. I think that his rushing yards, though, over 42 and a half. I think that's where we're looking at right now for Fields. Patriots definitely like to rush the passer. Bill Belichick disguises the coverage, so you don't really know exactly where it's going to be downfield. And I think Justin Fields kind of feeling himself a little bit here with the rushing yards. He had 86 last week. So I think if the Patriots start to over pursue a little bit and they do get a little aggressive, Justin Fields will take off. Again, Patriots struggle against the run. They're giving up about 120 rushing yards per game, and they have given up rushing yards to quarterbacks during the season so far.
Yeah, it's crazy to see the Bears in the direction that they're headed, but there are a lot of good areas where we can find decently priced props to win some money on a really, in my opinion, shitty game, But there was a lot of really exciting games this past weekend. I want to talk to you about just the difference in the Big Apple right now. The Giants, the Jets, they're ascending, and the Yankees just got swept by the Astros, and they're out. Probably something that no one predicted. It's just crazy what's happening in the Big Apple right now. Just your thoughts about all of these New York teams and what's going on up there.
Why you gotta hurt me and bring up baseball?
I'm sorry.
That's just atrocious. Why don't you just say, hey, look at those Jets. They look fantastic until Breece Hall tears his ACL.
I know, bad. That's really bad. I feel so bad for him. But the Giants, too, 6-1 on the season under new head coach and Brian Daboll. What's going on there?
Well, I actually like that. I'm a huge Brian Daboll fan, and I know the offensive scheme that he wants to implement. And what we're seeing right now with Wan'Dale Robinson is exactly the type of passing that the Giants want to do. They'll take their deep shots downfield to Darius Slayton. give them back Kadarius Toney, and I think Toney and Robinson really do a good job with the crossing routes, the underneath work. I think that's actually going to help them, for lack of a better way to put it, to dink and dunk when you're going downfield. I think that's really what it is. We saw a lot of targets for Robinson in yesterday's game, and with the potential loss of Daniel Bellinger, they're going to need somebody else to handle a lot of that underneath work. So I'm excited about that for the Giants. My wife is a diehard Giants fan, so obviously this keeps her in a much better mood. And then when the Jets are winning, I'm in a better mood. So it definitely helps my social agenda in the household here. And so I'm kind of excited about it. But obviously the loss of Breece Hall, the potential loss of Breece Hall, I don't think they've announced yet what the MRI results are, but it's not looking good. And I'm not a huge Michael Carter fan. So I think we're going to see some pullback on my poor lonesome Jets.
Yeah, the Evan Neal injury, I think, for the Giants is pretty big too.
Yeah.
We'll hear more about that today. They were playing. I mean, both of those guys, Neal and Thomas, were really thriving this year. Probably I would say the strong point of the Giants offense this year, or at least the biggest surprise was how well their offensive line was playing. Is that it for you, Howard? Any other picks? Any other vibes tonight? Who's going to win the World Series? Phillies or Astros?
I mean, I sadly can't bet against the Astros. I'm gonna have to take the Astros to win the World Series. I did. My preseason pick was the Phillies for the NL. So cash that.
Was it really?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I actually had to go back and look. I couldn't find the ticket, and then I found some paperwork that from a show on Fantasy Alarm that I did where I made that pick, and I know that I texted my buddy and said, let's take care of this and make that happen. So I did cash my ticket on the Phillies winning the NL. It's not, I mean, the Astros are just so good. It just drives me absolutely insane. So I'm not thinking World Series anymore. My Yankees are out. I'm gonna pour one out for them. I now sweat where Aaron Judge is going to sign for the next 4 months. That's a little on the depressing side. So what better way to cure the depression than to take the Bears +8 in a horribly sloppy, low-scoring, disgusting Monday Night Football game with feeble props, horrible teams. And I'll tell you what, if you're playing DFS and you're doing the showdown slate, put the Patriots defense in your captain's seat. That's the one that's going to score the most points tonight. That's your ticket for the evening.
I absolutely love it. Well, no better way to pump up the final game of Week 7 in the NFL than that, Howard. And the Houston Astros right now, -180 favorites to win the World Series, in case you're wondering. But the Yankees at this point should just hand them a blank check and be like, here you go. You decide whatever you want.
I would not hand Aaron Judge a blank check. We saw the best of Aaron Judge. I would not hand him a blank check. I would let him walk. Personally,
you would let him walk, really?
I mean, I would offer him a fair price, a fair offer.
Sure.
And if he turns it down because he thinks he's, God's gift to hitting, I would tell him to go look at the statistics in the playoffs and say, we like October hitters here in the Bronx, Aaron. We don't care about July and August. They were fun, but personally, are you happy with how he played in the postseason? I'm not.
No, I think that obviously the wear and tear of a season and chasing the American League record.
You sell high, right?
Record.
Right, Howard? He
What's
just
that?
broke the American League home run record. You're not going to get a better year from him next year.
No. Well, no, you're not going to get a better year from him. But I'm okay pulling back. Listen, if he can still hit 300 or close to it, give him 290 even in this day and age, and you give him 40 to 50 home runs. I'm perfectly fine with that because that's actually consistency in the lineup that very few teams actually have right now. Think about Aaron Judge. Listen, the dude, he's a very humble guy. He is not full of himself. What he did this year, he did for himself, for his life, for his family, and everything about his future. He bet on himself, and you cannot take that away from him. The guy is out. He's going to get
paid. Someone will pay him. Absolutely. I just hope the Yankees don't wreck the bankroll for him and then not be able to sign pitchers and relievers and guys that can actually help the team win a World Series. I mean, let's be honest. The Yankees model right now, Howard, is broken. They can't hit and they can't pitch in the playoffs. You see what the Astros do. They made the Yankees look like the junior varsity squad. So how about the Yankees start to employ that model in their team building? Go find the Aaron Judge on the Astros. He doesn't exist. It's mostly hitters that are younger, farm bred, guys on younger deals that don't have, a million strikeouts in October. Go find Yordan Alvarez. That's the guy I'd like to find.
I'd like to find a Yordan Alvarez or a Kyle Tucker as well. You know what? We had Aaron Judge as a homegrown guy. And listen, the Yankees have homegrown talent before. We saw you could take the 80s as the overspend and the nightmare that was with the Steinbrenner era into the 90s where it was all homegrown talent and Posada and Bernie and Andy Pettit and those guys. You go into the 2000s where you start picking up your Giancarlo Stantons and the other aspect of it.
Stanton was fantastic. Stanton was the only guy that was hitting in the playoffs. He was really the guy that was hitting for them.
Absolutely, but he was also
as bad as he's been in the regular season. In the playoffs, I think he had like one home run every other game. Like his postseason home run rate was absurd. I don't know. The Yankees are they're a broken franchise right now. They need to renovate the core of that franchise.
You're focused here on the playoff performance. It's a very narrow slate. It's still a very long season, and you still have to get there. And whether the playoffs are expanded or not, you need guys to perform between April and September. And that's fact. You have to be able to get there. And with, parity increasing in Major League Baseball, and you do see teams like the Rays, or teams like Cleveland, or teams like the White Sox, or teams like Seattle even. Like you've got teams who are improving on the overall level. So you do have to make sure that you secure yourself a spot in those playoffs before you start freaking out about October performances. You got to get there first. And that's what we need Aaron Judge to help us do. I
have a question for you right now, Howard. If you could pick one, Aaron Judge or Luis Castillo, who would you rather have on your team in October?
Luis Castillo, the pitcher?
The guy that the Yankees didn't fully go all in for.
Yeah. I mean, listen, did he perform really well in October for the Mariners? Absolutely. He definitely did. Put Luis Castillo for an entire season into the American League East, where he's got to deal with Toronto and Boston and the confines of Camden Yards. And I'll tell you what, man, Luis Castillo of the Reds is going to show his ugly head a whole lot more than that. I'm not saying he's going to be Ubaldo Jimenez, but he's also not going to be able to last that much in the American League East. You send him over to the West where he's got pitchers ballparks and weak lineups. Well, that's fine. But I think there are better targets out there than Luis Castillo.
Howard Bender, we so appreciate you coming on the show. Make sure to check him out on Fantasy Alarm. We'll be talking to you soon for the next couple of weeks. Thanks so much, Howard. Have a great week.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, guys.
All right, let's talk a little MLB since we were hot and high on that. Astros taking on the Phillies, who still haven't lost a game at home this postseason. Now they're in the World Series. The Astros are the best team in baseball. Right now they're favored at -180 to win the whole thing. Will Dusty get his ring? We're going to see. He's 0-2 in his World Series appearances so far as a manager. He wants it bad. This is the Astros' 4th World Series trip in the last 6 years. Now, on the other side, you look at a team like the Phillies. They seem like the team of destiny at this point. They're getting hot at the right time. They fire their manager, Joe Girardi, after 51 games this season. And now they won the NLCS in 5 games, 3 straight at home. Bryce Harper playing the best baseball of his career heading into his first World Series. 2-run home run in the 8th, clinched the series for the Phillies. It all starts on Friday in Houston. Jared, one word. If you could take who's going to win the World Series, who is it going to be and how many games?
Astros in 5.
Astros in 5. I like it. They are the best team in baseball right now. We're going to obviously be breaking that down more throughout the week, so we'll get into that in a second. Let's take it to college football. though, and then there were 6. There were 9 undefeated teams heading into week 8. Now there are only 6 undefeated teams. Syracuse lost a close game to Clemson, who is still undefeated. Ole Miss, what happened here? Got rocked by LSU, and then UCLA's undefeated run they were taken advantage of at Oregon. What did you see from those 3 teams to end their undefeated streak? I definitely did not expect Ole Miss to lose to LSU.
It's one of my bigger bets of the weekend that I actually got right. So that was fun. Yeah, Ole Miss is a fraud, guys. Ole Miss is a fraud. They haven't played anybody. Their strength of schedule was outside the top 90. And I just didn't see a whole lot there. And LSU did what they should have done, which is win a game that they were favored to win. Oregon was the better team. Oregon's better than UCLA. They're better in the trenches. I think Bo Nix is a little bit cleaner, pushing the ball down the field than DTR. And you saw the weapons that listen, Oregon's a really good football team, guys. Oregon lost that opening game to Georgia. It was Dan Lanning's first game as a head coach. He was facing his former master in Kirby Smart. It was an impossible spot. The game was I think it was in the Georgia Dome.
It was at Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. Yeah.
That was a home game for Georgia. Oregon came up flat. Since then, they've won every game on their schedule, and they've looked pretty good doing it. So Oregon is a legit college football playoff contender. They've got a good offensive line. They've got a good defense. They've got a head coach that understands how to play defense, and they've got a quarterback, Bo Nix, that has a ton of experience. Dillingham, the offensive coordinator, recruited Bo Nix at Auburn. They know the system. They've got talent up and down the field. They're not facing a gauntlet of SEC defenses like he did at Auburn. Oregon's legit, period, end of story. The Clemson-Syracuse game, Syracuse is as big as fraud as you can be as a team with that record. I don't think they should have covered that game. Personally, Clemson turned it over 4 times. I think if you played that game out 100 times, I think Clemson covers more than they don't. And I think Clemson's got their issues of their own, but at the end of the day, they're a more polished team than Syracuse. Let's just leave it at this. Syracuse is an underdog this week against Notre Dame. That's all you need to know about how good Syracuse is.
Yeah. Notre Dame's a good team. Okay? Notre Dame's a good team. There's 6 undefeated games left, or 6 undefeated teams left. We got Georgia. We got Ohio State. We got Michigan. We got Clemson, Tennessee, and TCU. Michigan and Ohio State play in the final week of the regular season, right after Thanksgiving. Georgia and Tennessee play on November 5th. Clemson, their toughest game left is still Notre Dame on November 5th. And TCU plays Texas on November 20th. Those are the big games that those teams will need to get past. 2 undefeateds going head-to-head. November 5th between Georgia and Tennessee. And then November, I think it's like 25th or 26th between Michigan and Ohio State. So good games on the docket. We move on to week 9 this week, which we're going to be breaking down. And we'll get that to you throughout the week. This week, week 8 of NFL, week 9 of college football, World Series, NHL, NBA, what's going on with the Lakers. We'll get into that too. Lots of sports happening this week, and I'm all about it. Let's Bet It is presented by Superbook Sports. Make sure to go to superbook.com or download the app today. And this season, guys, we are rooting for safeties. That's because Superbook is going to give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. Just place a $100 pregame bet on any spread, any total, and if there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you get a $50 bonus. So visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. From superbook.com, Jared, let's go to Pickswise.com. 3-star play of the day. Who do we have today on the site?
Clev TA, our pal Clev, is chiming in on the Patriots-Bears game tonight. It is a 3-star bet, and it's on a side. And I'll let you go check it out for yourself.
Make sure to go to Pickswise.com. Check it out. Play of the day is taking the day off from sports gambling. But don't worry, guys. I got your NHL pick for you that you've all been looking forward to. We have the Penguins heading into Edmonton to take on the Oilers. I like the over 7 here at plus 118. Now, the Pens, they're bringing Sid. They're going on into Edmonton, or Deadmonton, as I would like to call it, to take on his heir and Connor McDavid. In this past offseason, the Pens brought back Chris Letang, Evgeny Malkin. They were both unrestricted free agents this season, and they're both playing really well. But Sidney Crosby, right age of 35, man, and he is still cooking. 5 games so far he's played this season, 10 points through 5 games. He's one of the league leaders in points. And also the Pens offense in general has been absolute firepower. They've scored 6 goals in 4 of their 5 games to start the season. And Tristan Jarry also looks really good. He is 4-0 on the season between the pipes, 2.01 goals against average. Now, I know you look at a side like Edmonton, they've had a little bit slower of a start. They're finishing up a 6-game homestand before they head out on the road for the rest of the month. Draisaitl and McDavid, I feel like they're going to have a little extra energy after getting shut out by the St. Louis Blues in their last game. And now they're going up against a guy like Sidney Crosby, who's been rolling on the season. As Edmonton wants to find the back of the net, they got shut out. They lost 2-0 to the St. Louis Blues. They want to be able to score some goals. 3 of the Oilers' first 5 games have gone over or pushed at 7. I feel like this is a good bounce back spot for them. And if the Pens offense is rolling like they have been, they could basically cover this total themselves. I just need a couple goals from the Oilers at this point. And you're getting it plus money. You push at 7. You get 8 goals. You're getting it plus 118. So I feel pretty good about the Oilers Pens over 7 at plus 118. Lock it up. Lock it in. That's it for us today, guys. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. That's Jared Smith. I'm Lauren Jabara. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Best of luck tonight. Let's get it. Let's bet it. Presented by Superbook Sports.